Hi everybody, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name is Jim. If you haven't been here before, this is predominantly a turning channel. Each and every week, I show people how to make things on the lathe. This week, we're going to be working with some cherry. I call them cherry halves, little board sticks, almost. What I think these are, you can see there's a lot of wane edges on these here, so I think they probably come from trimming lumber. So I think that's what these, I got these from my neighbor up the road. Derek is his name, and so thanks Derek for sending these along. But you know, some of them are pretty twisted. This one here I think is maybe, yeah, there you go. It's like a hockey stick. I think you can probably take a wrist shot, a decent wrist shot with this one anyway. This is the worst one of the four that I've got, four of these. So what I want to do is cut these up into pieces and put them into a form after they've been split with an axe, hatchet or something like that. And then we'll throw some epoxy on top of it and see what we're looking at. But first things first, I want to clean these up because they're kind of dirty looking. And I would definitely want to cut out any knots. There's a few knots in these, so we'll cut those knots out. And hopefully we've got enough of these to make a really cool hull form or something along those lines. So first things first, I think what I'm going to do is just cut this up on the chop saw. And then we'll run these through the my Supermax drum sander, and then we'll get to casting. So turning scrap pieces into cash. That's kind of the theme with this week's video. And I know that there is a lot of people that do this kind of stuff that have a lot of these just scrap pieces hanging around. And this will give you an idea as to what to do. So I'm going to use some 60 grit on my Supermax drum sander. And I really love this drum sander, but we'll find out a little later on that this thing actually lets me down. It's only the second time since owning it, but running these through at 60 grit will clean them up. You know, I really didn't need to do this step, but I prefer to clean these pieces up when I can. That way, if there's any ghosting and you see the wood below it, that, you know, it looks nice and it's not covered in whatever and really kind of rough sawn. So that's the whole idea of running these through the drum sander prior to doing anything else with these, prior to casting. Anyway. Well, this isn't so good news. My wife phoned and I was talking to her on the phone, so I shut it off. And then when I went to turn it back on, I just heard a whole bunch of sizzling and it quit. So the motor that controls the bed will turn on, but when you plug the motor that's in the back here into the control housing here, it doesn't come on. And this plug was welded, basically melted plastic on the inside of this, so I cleaned it off, took it out, cleaned it off, and it's still, you know, when I plug this directly into power, it works fine. But when I plug it into the control unit, it doesn't work. So I'm assuming that the circuit board is bad. So I've been trying to get a hold of them. I got a parts diagram. This is one thing, you know, when you own a workshop, if you can't fix this stuff yourself, then you're going to have to hire somebody else to do it, and it's going to cost you a lot more money. Anyway, I'm waiting for them to get back to me, and that way I can order some parts. So I'm lucky enough to have the mechanical and electronic knowledge to fix these things, but I realize a lot of people don't. So if you look on my chop saw bed, you'll see the fence that's against the back of the saw. I've just got tick marks, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so on and so on. And, you know, that's just a quick reference for me for when I'm cutting up casting materials. Like I would never use that as a, you know, a permanent measuring piece. This is just to get me in the ballpark. And that way when you throw things in a casting bucket, they're relatively the same height. Because it's kind of irritating to try and set a weight on things to hold things when all the pieces you stick in the casting bucket are a different length. Hopefully that's enough. Since the drum sander is now out of commission, really the only thing I have left now is the belt sander. So we're going to use that, and you'll see some wane edges. And what I mean by wane edges, that's where the bark was. And I'm actually the one I'm working on right there. So we'll clean those off, and then we'll get ready for the next step. So these pieces are cut to 9 inches in length, and I thought that, you know, what would give a cool appearance is if we used a hatchet or an axe to just, when you look down on the top of this hollow form, it's going to give you a more rough looking appearance, and then of course straight lines on the side. So I realize that this has been done by others, but I thought that I would give it a go, and it's a great way to use scrap pieces. Like I still have a ton of pieces in my drying shed that would be suitable for this. And I actually didn't have enough. I had to pull some other ones from stock that I had, but I know that he had more of them, and I think he offered more of them to me. But of course, these were dry, and when I got them, I think they were sitting around 13% is what they were. But anyway, eventually we get this filled up, and we'll be ready to mix up some epoxy here soon. There you go. That took a while, and this is going to use a ton of resin. There ain't no doubt about that. All right, speaking of that, let's mix some up. As per normal, anytime I do a deep casting, we're going to use deep casting epoxy from Designer Epoxy. Like I said, the pieces of wood were cut to 9 inches. I believe the depth of pour here is something like 10 inches. We haven't used Midnight Purple in a while, so I thought that I would use that. And along with that, we're going to use the Hypershift blue, green, and gold. Now, I don't really see a lot of Hypershift in this in the end, and I think the main cause of that is because there isn't really large epoxy areas. It's, you know, predominantly wood in this piece. So, you know, it breaks up a lot of that stuff. But anyway, I thought I would throw it in there, and I absolutely love Midnight Purple. Hopefully you guys do as well. All right, these are going to float when the epoxy goes in, so we're going to have to put some sort of a retainer in there. I'm going to put this in the fridge, and I can't have this too tall, so that little block of cherry seems to work well for that. Not quite. There, that distorts the bucket a little bit, but it's only at the very top and not down here. A little bit, but I need, I can't be any higher than 13.5, and that's 12.5. Yeah, I was afraid of that. The resin's about here-ish. So, you know, I'm gonna mix up another probably 1.5 liters, and I'll be right back. Okay, well here's another 1.5 liters, and I'm thinking that even if this isn't enough, that's gonna be it, because we're gonna get some pretty major thermal cracking. And I know that that may look like a lot, but I'll be surprised if it doesn't absorb all of this. We got a floater. We got a couple of floaters. Well, all right, we'll check on this tomorrow. I'm going to throw this in the fridge, and the reason why I'm throwing this in the fridge is to slow down the cure. This epoxy needs between 70 and 75 Fahrenheit in order to cure, and by throwing it in the fridge when it's an overpour like this, and I mean this is a severe overpour, considering that deep cast is only good for 4 inches max. This is 10 inches, so it's over twice as much. So anyway, I'm going to throw this in the fridge. That'll slow the curing process of the epoxy and hopefully prevent thermal cracking, in theory. We'll check on this tomorrow. See you then. Ow, how do I carry this? Oh yeah, that's nice and heavy. All right, so I just pulled this out of the fridge. This is what we're looking at. I mean, the epoxy is still very, very liquidy, so no worries about there. I think that probably another day in the fridge and then throw it in the pressure pot after that will certainly work for us. But, you know, at this point, looks like it hasn't cured at all. Anyway, I'll give you an update tomorrow. All right, so here we are the next day. This is kind of what we're looking at now. This stuff is so thick that I don't see the benefit of really putting it into the pressure pot. So I think what I'll probably do is just leave this right on the bench as it is, and hopefully in a couple of days we'll be able to get this on the lathe. Good morning. So we got a floater again this week, but it's on the outside, so it really shouldn't matter all that much. It is 3 days after coming out of the fridge. As you can see, I took the tape off it, so hoping that the bucket would relax a little bit and turn more to a roundish shape. So other than that, it seems cured. So let's get this out of here and see if we have any thermal cracking to fix. Wow, easiest one ever. Ooh, lots of hypershift sitting on the bottom. Well, what do we got here for depth? Almost 10 inches. It would have been well over that when it went into the fridge. And I do not see any thermal cracking whatsoever. That is amazing. Whew, cool. What are the chances I can get that off? All my hammers are inside the house because we're working on the house. Oh wait, I got a bigger one over here. Hey, proper tool for the proper job. So let's get some centers. So again, designer epoxy comes through with these deep pores. I'm telling you, if you're looking for an epoxy and you want to start doing deep pores, give designer epoxy a try, because you in all likelihood will not be disappointed. I really love this epoxy and I'm so glad that they've sponsored my channel. That's about as good as we're going to get, I think. So if you didn't catch the RPM, we're starting off here at 475. Couldn't go really above that. The very top of this piece, with it being oblonged a little bit because of the tape, was really kind of affecting that. And of course, we're using the number 3 Hercules from Hunter Tool Systems. And again, for all of my sponsors, there are links in the description. If you need some stuff, head down there and use my code and get some money back in your pockets. So as it always is with all of these pieces, we're going to strip off this excess epoxy and, see what we're going to make from here. In the back of my mind, I was thinking that this would really look cool as a hollow form. You could have actually cut this right down the middle if you wanted to and had 2 different bowls, not down the middle. Cut it in half. You could add 2 bowls. This could have been a lidded dish. This could have been a number of things. Lidded jar. As I've previously stated, I'm trying to move away from utility items and try to bridge more into the artistic side of wood turning. So when I think of the artistic side of wood turning, I think of hollow forms and vases and, these kinds of things, like really large platters, decorative platters that you would hang on the wall. You could certainly use that for function as well, but ideally you can make things that are functional and are works of art. And of course, a bowl, certainly some bowls, I'm not saying that bowls aren't in that category. I think maybe if you turn a bowl that looks more artistic, has a more artistic form than, say, a more functional form, like an open salad bowl, that's in that category. But, I realize that, those things are really popular sellers, but to get to the next level where I want to be, I certainly want to move into the more artistic side of things. And of course, the only thing that's really allowing me to do that is the epoxy. I was with the inlays, I was getting stagnant where, putting inlays in the rims of bowls is certainly makes things unique, but there's only so many inlay materials to do that. And there's certainly other ways to use inlays as well. But, the epoxy has really allowed me to become so much more creative than I was before. It's really opened a whole new avenue for me to go down and try and expand on artistic pieces. And, I didn't really see it in the beginning, but now I certainly do. And I'm so glad that I started turning epoxy. And it's just, like I said, it's a really cool thing to work with. Can be frustrating. Not going to say that it isn't. It can be certainly frustrating, but I love it. Okay, so it is decision time as to what we're going to do here. There is a resin collar. I left this kind of at the top. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with it. And I think that I'm going to abandon this idea. The main reason, here, let me move you over here so you can see. So, if you're going to use a collar on the top, these straight lines at the very top here are really going to mess with it. And I just don't think that it's going to look good. So I'm going to abandon that idea. What I will do is turn this into the foot area. I think that I'm going to put a glue block on the bottom here. I'm not 100% sure on that yet. And the reason for that is some of you may or may not remember, but this here, I really like this form and I'd like to replicate it again in this piece. The other thing too is this here is messing with me as well. Even if I cut this in, I think that I'm still going to have this line here where this is the floater that we had. So I think what we'll do with that style, we'll be able to delete that for the most part because, it's quite aggressively swept in. And then on the top, we'll try and replicate that other piece. Still got a little way to go here. Don't like this. Well, let me move you back here. I don't like this ghosting that you see. So that's probably about 1/8 of an inch down or so. We're going to lose probably about a quarter of an inch in diameter. But I got to get rid of it. It just, it's messing with me. And same thing here. This one here, there's no point in doing anything because I think this is one of the ones that split off. So at least it's not a straight line. Well, it is, but it's like this. But anyway, I think the only way to delete this and to not have this incorporated in the top is turn that into the foot. By all means, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you would have done, but that's what I'm doing. So I do my best to get rid of the ghosting that we see on the piece. The only issue with pieces like this is, of course, I have thin pieces and I have thicker pieces. And if you turn this down to get rid of the ghosting that you see, in all likelihood, you're going to actually cut through the thinner ones and then expose more ghosting. So at some point you have to say, okay, that's it. Enough is enough. And anyway, that's exactly what I do. There's a little bit left in the finished piece, but it's something that you can chase forever in a casting like this. So instead of whittling away any more of the size of this piece, I decided to just cut my losses and finish it more or less the way it is. We're going to trim this up a little more because we're going to reverse this a couple times. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess maybe I wasn't thinking. It was a Monday. For some reason, I put the glue block on what will be the top. And I don't know why I did that, but I did. So at least we have a good solid tenon to reverse it and to get it on the other side. I should mention that I'm using birch here as my waste blocks. Birch is soft enough that you can get a good grip with the tenon, but it's not too hard and it's not too soft. It's like the Three Little Bears. This one's just right. And so anyway, now that I've realized that I don't know what I was thinking, and well, I guess I wasn't thinking. So now I'm going to reverse this. And the good thing about having that resin piece on the very bottom of this is that I can put another glue block on the bottom here and essentially use a large tenon to hold this piece and, not really affect the size of the foot area because we're able to cut in and cut a foot out of it. I am using 60 grit on the bottom of these before I use the high temperature hot melt glue. That is what you should be using anytime you're going to do any of this. So yeah, I spread up the footage here because I was like, okay, we've already seen this before, but I thought it was important to include all that because you guys would have been going, why is there two glue blocks on this thing? So I thought I'd explain that. I will mention that it's actually a pretty nice little piece of wood that's glued on the bottom of this. Maybe I should have used that for something else. So there we are, finally reversed the way that it's supposed to be. And we'll be able to start shaping this piece. You can see it's a little out of round. Every time you reverse one of these pieces, it is very hard to keep it running true. So you're always going to lose a little bit off of the size of the piece. So as you watch me shape this piece, I'll just briefly talk about last week's video, and that was the Do You, as in Y-E-W, like red. And thanks again to those who watched that video. I definitely will say that it's not hard to tell that it's summertime and the Olympics are on, because views are way, way down. That's to be expected. It happens pretty much every summer. I realize people got stuff on the go, and YouTube is not really one of the things that people are focused on in the summertime. Same thing with my wife and I. We tend to maybe not watch as much of it in the summertime, so I totally get that. But anyway, thanks to those who watched that last week, and I will link that at the end of this video in case you did miss it. And I didn't even talk about the week before that either, and that's the Groovy Baby, the big platter that I did for Mark and Teresa, right? I guess it's Terry. She goes by Terry. And again, that was another video that, I really had a hard time coming up with a concept as to how to use these two pine cones. And in the end, they really do like the piece, and that does my heart a lot of good, because I was really struggling to try and come up with some idea as to what to do with this. But they are happy with that piece, and I still have yet to get it in the mail. I've been so busy working on the house and other stuff, and anyway, I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But anyway, they really like that platter, and I will show the one that I did last week at the end of this video. So for you new wood turners, if you're having issues with your tools kind of gliding on your tool rest, there's a couple of issues that it can be. Because I use so much hot melt glue, a lot of times that will get transferred to the tool rest, and then you'll find, when you're rubbing your tool across that tool rest, it should just glide without effort. You shouldn't be kind of needing to push it along. This tool rest comes from Robust, and there is a welded steel hardened rod on the very top of it. So that keeps dents from happening to your tool rest. For instance, the tool rest that came with my lathe was just a cast tool rest, and it marked up very, very easily. So I know that a lot of lathes, I would say probably the majority of lathes, come with tool rests like that. So on occasion, you're going to have to take a fine file to it and file it nice and flat and get any of those little bumps and divots that are in it. And by using that Scotch Brite pad, the fine one, by rubbing the tool and rubbing the surface of the tool rest, you'll find that the tool glides along the tool rest so much faster. So just to briefly talk about the tool rest thing again, if you are looking to buy an aftermarket tool rest, I would say that Robust should be at the top of your list. I own two of their tool rests and absolutely love them. This one that I have that I'm using right now, I've had for years now, and there are some minor little dents in it, but nothing that's really going to affect the use of it. And just treat your tool rest exactly like you do the rest of your tools. Make sure that it's in top shape, and your turning experience will be better. There can be nothing more frustrating to be a new wood turner, and you're struggling with things, and then you're sliding your tool along, and all of a sudden you've either hit a spot that's really sticky, or there's a dent in it, and then that transfers to your work. So definitely look after your tool rests, and like I said earlier, your turning experience will be so much better. But Robust, I would say, is at the top of my list as far as tool rest manufacturers. But I don't have a one-way, so they could be up there too. All right, so I thought I would point this out as we're going along and shaping this. This would be a cool, I'll call it a mushroom pot. Here would be your top. Cut it off here. Here's your base. The only issue is when you've got pieces like this that, this is kind of busy, on the busy side. And so when you cut this off, of course, you're going to have to make a tenon, and then things are going to have to slide down. And then, it's just not going to look good. I did seriously consider actually doing that with this piece. But if you had a piece that was, say, predominantly resin on the top, maybe just a couple of large pieces of wood, then I think that would be a more suitable piece to make something like this mushroom pot, if you will. To me, it has kind of a Oriental Asian feel. I don't know. Maybe somebody in there will know the exact name of what a pot like this would be called, but I just did a quick little bit of research on it, and I can't really find too much. But anyway, as shapes appear on the lathe, sometimes you have to switch gears and go in a different direction. And like I said, I easily could have done that with this piece, but I don't think that it's best that we do that because it's just going to be chopped up and not look good. The top will never fit onto the base and look correct. With all that said, we will see that form in the future. I really like the look of that, and we certainly will see it. I did bump the speed up to 1,000. Now, when I initially started the foot area on this piece, I was just going to cut it straight off like the piece that I showed you on my phone. And then, of course, as this foot develops, I kind of fell in love with this foot, so I decided to keep it. So hopefully you guys like it as well, but I really do like the look of it. But anyway, it's the great thing about working with epoxy is that you can pour a casting that's 3 feet in diameter. And that is very tough to do with solid pieces of wood. You have to rough out solid pieces of wood, let them dry, and then put them back on the lathe. So this is where the epoxy comes in and allows you to be so creative. And really, I really like the look of that foot. We might see more of those in the future as well. So here is your weekly house update, and if you're not aware, my wife and I are selling our current home in Eastern Ontario and moving to our home province of New Brunswick. The only reason that we're actually here is because I was posted to Canadian Forces Base Petawawa, and that was my last posting. So that's why it's a great community here, and to be honest with you, I didn't think we're ever going to move home, but we decided to do that. And so anyway, we're in the process of selling our home and working on our home, and we haven't had any showings or anything. It's been very, very slow, and really the only thing you can say about it is the market. The current market is not well, and anyway, the kitchen is almost done, and I hope to I'll do some walkthrough video next week with that and our deck that we've done. So for some reason, my video card in my GoPro died, and that's why we're jumping right into this. But I am using the retrofit tool from Hunter Tool Systems. You can see it in the end of the boring bar here. And this is the one-way captive system from oneway.ca. If you're looking to buy one, I really do highly recommend getting one. It's especially great for lefties that have to work over the lathe bed because, of course, it's all backwards for us. But I like this system, and using the retrofit tool has been a big game changer as far as using this captive system and the cutters that come with it from One Way. But anyway, I don't have a ton of footage showing this being done. There's not really a whole lot that you guys can see anyway. So there are a few shots here, but the retrofit tool really absolutely has changed the way that I use the system, and absolutely love it. Again, they're from Hunter Tool Systems, link in the description. So I've switched out the straight boring bar, and this is the double bent one. And now you can see the laser system working. And essentially, I've got the retrofit tool pointing towards me, and this is the 3/16 inch one. And once that laser elongates on the top of the vessel and then drops off, then you've achieved your wall thickness. That's the way that it works. Somebody had mentioned a little while back that they'd like to see me do one of these freehand. And to be perfectly honest with you, turning a form like this freehand with my non-dominant hand would be challenging. I'm not gonna lie to you. It definitely will be challenging. I could stand on the other side of the lathe and attempt it. I do have another hollowing tool that I could possibly use on the outboard end, but of course that would only be smaller work. The other thing too is I find it a little uncomfortable to use, and I think that, you know, I'm not a real tall person. I'm only 5'6", or I was. Probably shrunk a little bit since then, 167 centimeters. So I would probably need to make a little platform to stand on just to make it more comfortable. Yeah, I mean, it's just try doing something. If you're right-handed, try doing something with your left hand. Something that requires some finesse, and see how you make out. It is a right-handed world, and those who are born right-handed have no idea how lucky they are. Because simple things like a can opener, for somebody that's left-handed can be torturous. But of course, when you're left-handed, you learn to adapt. And I do a lot of things right-handed. I can probably do a lot more things right-handed than right-handed people can do left-handed. That's for sure. And I know that they do make left-handed can openers, by the way. There's a lot of things that are made, but you know, a simple thing like scissors. A lot of scissors are made right-handed. So anyway, that's just we apparently are the creative ones. If you're watching movies, here's another one that I find is very uncanny. A lot of actors and actresses are left-handed, and like when you look at how many left-handed people are in the world, I just find it interesting that a lot of them actually are actors and actresses. So anyway, that's enough of that. We've got this. I've got this to the point where I like it, and now I've got the lathe running in reverse, and I turn it forward, and I was just cleaning up the opening on the inside. Sometimes it gets dinged up with the tool going in and out of it, so I usually do this before I start sanding. So there you go. That's what it's going to look on the top, and lots of geometric shapes in there. I think it's a really cool pattern. So there is the little handle that Alan sent me last week. I got the bushings installed, had to drill them out to 5/16. That's what the size of the extension is that I'm using there. The one thing that I am going to do is I find that it's a little too large for my hands, so I'm just going to mount it between centers and whittle it down a little so it's a little bit more comfortable to use. And we're sanding from 60 to 180 because we're going to do another epoxy coat on the inside and the outside of this piece. So once the inside was sanded, I want to just give this a final little trimming, and then of course I'll sand this the same as I did on the inside to 180. Just using the parting tool there to define the foot. I really do like to do that before I do the sanding on the outside of any of these pieces, and certainly before any epoxy goes on. And that's just the Phoenix. It's made a couple of appearances in this video, and really like it to get into those small little tight areas. I should mention that we are using the 3.5-inch dipple disc from sandpaper.ca. There is a link in the description to get a discount on those as well. I'm not sure as to what their 3.5-inch dipple disc die was down, so I'm not sure if that's back up and running yet. Hopefully it is. But anyway, there is a link in the description. Check them out. All right, what I have here is 3 ounces of the Pro Series. All right, I'll give that about 10 minutes, and then we'll turn it over, throw it on the lathe, and do the coat on the outside. If you haven't seen this method before, what I'm using here is a thinner type epoxy, and that will flow into any little bubbles that may remain, any little voids, and it works great to fill in those areas. There you go. It's actually the first time that we've seen the purple so far. I could already see it drying out on all of the end grain pieces, so I will certainly give it more after we're done talking. Love this form. So far, I'm thinking I like it with this foot better than the previous one that I did. Can't really see down inside. Anyway, let me know what you think about this piece in the comments. It's a big resin pocket there, just to give you an idea what it looks like. Whew, anyway, that's a very long day. We will see you tomorrow for the first coat of Waterlux. I've been asked quite a bit if I take these pieces or off the lathe or if I leave them rotating, and I typically pull them off and throw them in my clean room where the heat is. If I get any runs or sags, then they're going to be sanded out the next day, so it's no big deal. Well, good morning. Got some bubbles happening. Lots of dry spots on the very top. See if the camera is going to pick that up or not. From the epoxy coat though, and this happens sometimes, so after I turn it over this way, there'll be drips sometimes on the very inside, which are pretty much impossible to sand just on the inside. So what we're going to use is the wide reach Baron tool, and I'll use it from the other side of the lathe. So anyway, I'll just clean that up, give that a quick little sanding on the inside. I'll probably also sand the inside of this, and then we'll sand the outside and get our first coat of Waterlux on. But you know, things are pretty good. Hopefully it's going to take only 2 coats, and we'll be able to have a finished piece this week. Anyway, that's what we're up to today. So there it is again, and that is, you know, I also have the long reach Baron from Hunter Tool Systems as well. And the only other way to deal with this would be to set up the steady rest again and the captive hollowing system and and trim it away that way. If you try to sand that by, you know, reaching your hands and around there, you're going to be forever trying to get rid of those little drips that are hanging down. So this is by far and away the easiest way to do this. Yeah, there's just really, I don't see any other way of doing it. So again, I'm going to sand the inside of this. I'm only going to 180. I ended up having to change my sanding pad because it just wasn't holding on to the nipple disc as well as it should anymore. That one never came from sandpaper.ca anyway. But once this is done and the outside is sanded, we're going to sand the outside from 180 to 800. And then when that's done, we're going to use the Triple E buffing compound. Again, that's not 3 E's. That's Triple E as in the city of Triple E from the Beal buffing system. There it is there, quickly. And when that's done, we use, of course, the denatured alcohol to clean up the surface of this so that we don't have any adhesion issues with the Waterlux. And I'm going to show you, there's what it looks like on the first pass, and then I use the back side of the paper, and it's amazingly cleaner. All right, here is your first coat of Waterlux Gloss. I do prefer to use old t-shirt material or 100% cotton that's lint-free in order to apply these finishes. Do not use paper towel. It won't work. There you have it. First coat of Waterlux. The piece has been nice and flattened. I actually really like this piece. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. Particularly like that foot. Let me know what you think about that. Again, this is one of those pieces that you can just look at it all day long. And you'll probably see something different in it. For the second coat, I will do it exactly the same as this. I will buff it, then clean it, and put the Waterlux on it. And I'm hoping that 2 coats is going to do it. Does look a little dry down in this area, down on the end grain. But other than that, see you when we do the foot. So after 2 coats are finished, we're ready to part this piece off the lathe. I did just buy a new parting tool, and there's quite a difference in the length of them. I find after a while you start to lose some mechanical advantage and they're a little harder to use. So When I was in full production, I would burn up probably 1 or 2 of these a year. So it's been a couple of years actually since I've had to replace this one. So that's good, I guess. So anyway, after I cut this with the saw, we'll throw this on the vacuum chuck and finish off the foot. All right, I'd like to personally thank you all for watching this week's video, especially those who watched it all the way through. Special shout out to the members. Thank you so much for supporting me. And if you want to become a member of my channel, it's only $2.99 Canadian a month. And for that, I will put up extra content, let you know what's going on that week for the video. All right, let's have a last little chat about this week's video as I sand the bottom of this to 400. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. All right, so before we talk about this week's project, I said that I'd hold on to this and show you this. This is last week's project, and of course it just wasn't finished. But as you can see, the outside of it is all nice now. She's all ready to go. Here is the signature and the engraving on the bottom. And I used the engraver this time just because of the epoxy. I was able to put it on the epoxy, and usually I'll only do that when it's straight epoxy. If you have to engrave on the wood and the epoxy, it tends to not look all that great. And I think a lot of people missed it last week, but this piece is for sale along with this week's project. It's also for sale. So if you're interested, send me an email to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com and I will disclose the price then, in case this is a gift. But anyway, I thought I really wanted to show this to you guys to make sure that you see what it looks like. Beauty. As far as this week's concerned, this piece is 8 inches at its widest dimension and 7 3/4 tall. As far as the thickness is concerned, it's probably less than 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch or less at the top, and then it probably tapers down to a 1/2 inch. I like to have pieces like this that have a small foot to be a little weighty. That way they're not so easily knocked over if somebody bumps a table. But the coolest part of this piece, of course, is the top and the bottom with all the geometric shapes that you see in there. I think it's just really cool. Now, my signature and all the details are on the bottom. But as you can see, it's quite busy, so it's a little hard to see. But you know, if you try and use the engraver on the wood and the epoxy, it'll dig in further, and to me, it just doesn't look good. But I still need to do a coat of finish on the inside, and then probably 3 coats of finish on the bottom, and then it'd be ready to go to its new home as well. So yeah, this piece is for sale also. Let me know. Don't forget to put designer epoxy in the comments down below to be entered into the next 3-gallon giveaway at 130,000 subscribers when we get there. I know it's been painfully slow getting there. You know, it's just summertime and just people got other things on the go and, you know, whatever. So probably not next week. The week after, I'm hoping, will be the giveaway. We'll finally be there, but you never know. Some days, you know, I'm only getting, say, 30 subscribers. I've seen it as low as 7 subscribers a day, and then probably as high as 60. So, you know, it very much fluctuates. So, hey, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. After all, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And that way we can give away some more stuff. I'm going to talk to designer epoxy and see if we can switch the giveaway back to every 5,000 subscribers, because it just took so long to get to 130,000, and you know, we're not even there yet. But anyway, I'll talk to them and I'll let you know. And of course, the giveaway, that's only for continental USA and Canada for the 3-gallon kit for designer epoxy. But for my giveaway, I ship worldwide. So please leave a comment down below to be entered into that. And if you are the winner, I will ship it to you at my expense. Next week is going to be, what am I going to call this? I don't know. It's going to be a basket case burl rescue. That's what we'll call this. That's what we're going to call it anyway. Anyway, I don't know how it's going to work out. It's in the pressure pot, so your guess is as good as mine. But anyway, that's next week. All right, well, that's it. Take care, stay safe. Don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. That is the largest way for me to build my presence here on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it. You have yourselves a fantastic weekend, and hopefully we'll see you back here next week. Take care.